Welcome to episode 4 of Alex and Annie. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we have an amazing guest today who's very special to Annie and I, the one and only Simon Lehmann, all the way from Switzerland. Simon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. You know, the wonderful thing is to be here today. First of all, I want to congratulate you to launch this podcast, the 2 blondies, and today we're the 3 blondies. I'm a bit more gray, but this is great. And thank you for having me, Annie and Alex.
Absolutely. We're so happy to have you here. And Simon, I don't know that you need a massive introduction in our industry, but I think we've got some people listening that aren't necessarily in vacation rentals. And just to give them a little bit of background about what they're about to hear and how amazing of a speaker they're about to hear from. Simon, he is currently CEO of AJL Atelier, previously was co-founder and chairman of Vacasa Europe, previous president of Phocuswright, and ex-board member of HomeAway, and was the CEO of Interhome, which was the largest vacation rental company in Europe. Simon, remind me how many rentals that was?
Well, when I was departing in 2014, we were at 48,000 rentals. Yeah. Wow,
unbelievable. I mean, that's pretty amazing back then too. Gosh, so that's his background in a nutshell. And most recently, Simon is involved with a new company called DTravel, which is the largest blockchain company in vacation rentals. I can't wait to dive into that. Blockchain is definitely something that we've all known is coming into the travel industry. And I was shocked and excited when I saw your LinkedIn post about a week ago about it. So we're really excited to hear more about that.
Thank you.
Beyond all that, Simon is Annie's mentor, right?
Absolutely. Yes. I'm a big fan of Simon. And so it's an honor to have you as one of our first guests, of course. And that's kind of where I wanted to start, Simon, is you have such a fascinating history that you've shared with both Alex and I that I think a lot of people don't know about. And one of the things that we want to come across on our podcast is kind of the real person behind the person, what made Simon what he is, and so for me, you've been mentoring me for the last couple of years, and it's just meant the world to me, pushing me outside my comfort zone. So I have to believe that there's some people that have pushed you along the way and helped make Simon the Simon that we all know and love. And so I'd love to hear about kind of your, your story, your history, how you got to vacation rentals, because I know that's not where you started, and maybe some people that were important along the way.
Absolutely. And first of all, once again, it's so great to be here. I'm so happy to face a different type of podcast, and I'm glad you guys launched it, and we can contribute to that accordingly in the industry. I think my biggest mentor was my mother, because she pushed me out of my comfort zone, without a doubt, because I come out of a very academic family, and I took the easy route and did an apprenticeship instead of going to university. And who cares? We can all achieve our goals. So I think, it's a matter of what you believe and understanding what are your strengths and where do you need to push your strengths. Never push a person who can play basketball and playing tennis, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what it's all about. And I think my father has totally understood this guy is not made for the bench in the school. He's made for the real world, right? So I entered the real world at the age of 17. Instead of going to university, I finished my 9 years of compulsory school in Switzerland, and I faced the real world because I did an apprenticeship, and I learned to have big shoulders and big elbows, and it was a non-academic way, but over the time I realized academia is important for several reasons, not just for the CV, but just to understand more complexity and deeper insights in how financials work, commercial world works, how marketing works, how everything else works. So for me, I needed to sort of lose my horns first. So I moved to Australia when I was 20 years old. And then I came back and I realized I need to add to my curriculum some real knowledge in terms of commercial knowledge and financial knowledge. So I signed up for a bachelor and did that. And I realized that, things can take you a lot further. So I think it's a good combination of real life experience and then also adding the right amount of academia to it. I believe going forward, I think real life experience is going to be more important than anything else. But we shall see how this is evolving.
So after you did all that, I think we talked about you actually were in the airline industry space, working airport management, was it?
Absolutely. So I was working with Swissport, one of the largest ground handling companies in the world, which was a part of Swissair Group. We went through obviously a grounding. We went through, the worst thing that an airline can go through, one of the wealthiest and most common airlines or well-known airlines in the world, like Swissair, went bankrupt at 9/11. And we had a lot of subsidiary companies. And I was in the ground handling subsidiary. We were the largest ground handling company in the world. And I had a massive opportunity to go in there and deep dive into ground handling. My first station was Athens, where I managed 700 people, 3 airports. And then I went to Germany, Swissport Germany, where I managed 10 airports with 3,500 staff. And then I ended up at the age of 35 being responsible of the commercial division of Swissport at 1.3 billion Swiss franc to run the entire commercial division or the sales of all Swissport worldwide. So, my career was like a rocket ship. And yeah, at the age of 35, I had 1.3 billion revenue responsibility.
Wow, unbelievable. That's just incredible to think. But a couple of things that come to me after what you just said. I mean, the emphasis on education, that was obviously a big thing as you were growing up. And I know you've done a lot of different work within our industry on the education side, right? I mean, the hotel.school and vacation rental university and those types of things, which there's not a lot of people out there that can pull together programs like that. But, you obviously have the background to be able to do that. And then the next part is, but then moving into the real life experience. I mean, you don't get more real life experience than being on the ground with, 700 people at the first airport. And then Germany, how many people was that?
3,500, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. And then $1.5 billion, that's unbelievable beginning to your career. And it makes sense naturally that you would be, a consultant and a professional in operations now, even though it's something completely different. Vacation rentals, much different background there. But my gosh, I mean, you really know how to make things move and how to get the parts going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. And I think, if I can ask you, the word consultant is maybe a difficult word to use with the experience that I have, right? So engaging with AJL, a little bit of sales on our side, is that you're not engaging with a consultant, you're engaging with a life experience company.
Oh, I love that.
And I think that's fundamental to us, and especially me as well. At the age of 48, I decided to sort of, aggregate my world and life experience into one and build a firm that I have the ability to share my experience. So I would not call myself a consultant in any shape or form. I call myself as a partner that you can call with literally every challenge that you have. Right. As you can appreciate, having been a CEO literally 25 years of my life, I mean, I've seen so many different things. I've seen corporate life, I've seen disasters, I've seen, airplane crashes, I've seen 9/11, I've seen groundings, I've seen SARS, I've seen a lot of different crises. And at the end of the day, the value that we create is the way we can create values by experience, and then we can react to it. And that also, that's also a point to the pandemic as well. How do we react to a pandemic? Because we've seen crisis before. And I think, we see it ourselves as a partner to discuss this and add value and potentially, help create solutions to the remedy, whatever the challenge might be, and that's how I see myself with the experience that I've taken. I've ran massive management teams. I've run international companies across the world. And at the end of the day, I decided, hey, I want to be my own boss. I want to do what I'm passionate about all day long, and create a stellar team and a culture that I've learned across the corporate world that you want to be, and potentially what you don't want to be. And, corporate world to the entrepreneurial world is, it could not be different, right? And not everybody is made for that. And I would have never thought that at the age of close to 50, I would become an entrepreneur while I was running the corporate ladder. But now I think, I found my spot where I can drive and where I can be enthusiastic and bring value to an industry that I love endlessly, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, your team, and I've talked to several of them and worked with you a little bit in the past. The one thing you guys really excel at is connecting the dots, and really that makes sense over your lifetime of being able to see all these different things that it might be a different industry, but you understand how they all merge together there. And, Roy Clyburn, the CEO of Condo World, who just passed away a couple months ago, one of his favorite sayings was, the most complicated problems truly they call for simple solutions, and we all look at a lot of the issues we have in travel now and in the technology, atmosphere, that there's so many different things that we're constantly running against, but really there are simple solutions to them, but it's finding the right people to have at the table to bring those solutions to fruition. And you're definitely one of them. I know that in my time I've spent with you.
Well, absolutely, Alex. And first and foremost, I'm really sorry for Roy to leave us as an industry head and thinker in what he's done with Condo World and in the industry that you're operating in, which is remarkable. And that sort of teaches us that experience does not come by potentially degrees on university.
Right. Yeah.
Experience comes with age. And my hair are turning gray as well, and think, are you still useful? Yeah, I am. I feel like a 25-year-old, and Roy was equally enthusiastic until his very end, and gave a lot of people belief and trust and opportunities in the industry. And I think we want to do the same, right? We are in such an incredible industry. We can do so much more in where we're at, and we're only at the start of it. And one thing I want to start here quickly bringing in, one of my best dear friends is Carl Shepard, one of the founders of HomeAway, who came to San Antonio. And, we need to think about the fact that 2005, vacation rental in the United States had 5% category awareness, right? Yeah. We're now at 80. So, hey guys, let's deliver. So, right. so let's deliver. So we need, as Roy has passed and as time passes, and we continue to keep the values and drive what people have given us in terms of experience, we need to continue to do the same. And we need to be equally passionate, and we need to be equally focused on delivering that value and raising the professionalism of vacation rental. And situations like that, as sad as they are, they're great to raise and understand and take them to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. The needle keeps moving, but at the end of the day, it's just a different target now. The professionalization is so important and something that we continue to focus on. But you look back just 5-8 years ago, and it was really just awareness at that point. But to your point, 80%. Exposure in the market, my gosh, there's only 20% more that we can go to. So let's make sure that 80% is getting an incredible experience when they stay in our inventory.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we don't need the 20, to be perfectly honest, Alex.
Yeah.
I think if we can maintain an 80 category awareness, and the latest Deloitte report that has been created on the tailwind of Vacasa going public. It's interesting that finally we see some Goldman Sachs reports. We see some Deloitte reports, which, a few years ago, we wouldn't even know what we're doing all day long. And we're creating a 190 billion industry. Come on. So, hey, let's beat the drum here, but to your point, you're totally right. So I think we will see a lot more tailwind, but one thing that we need to be very careful about, that we can, the suggested tailwind that Deloitte puts out, that people who have first rented in COVID, 75% said we want to rent again. And that's a big number, right? So they want to come back to our vertical, but we need to make sure we can keep them. And that, I still believe, is one of our biggest challenges. How do we make that happen? How do we create the guest experience? How do we keep them to our vertical? Because they're traditional non-renters. Let's face it, pre-COVID, 2019, Phocuswright said 36% category awareness. Now we doubled that even more. So that means we need to make sure we can deliver a seamless guest experience. So technology adoption is going through the roof. And for our very fragmented industry, that's not an easy task. So I think we need to do a lot more on education. We need to, we need to get the property managers up to speed, what is out there in technology, education, and work as a voice.
So that actually brings me to a question. We talk about the professionalism, we talk about change in the industry and making the industry better at what it can be. And I think that the professionalism is a big piece that's missing. But one of the biggest things that I've noticed just on my side of the equation is the technology. The technology is continuing to change. And so for vacation rentals, they were kind of stuck in, I don't say the dark ages of technology, but definitely not moving as fast as like the hospitality hotel sector was. And so COVID exacerbated the need to have the technology in place and the adoption of technology. And so I would ask you, from your 30,000 foot view of the industry, what do you think are the biggest pieces of technology to change going forward? Like where do you think the industry is going to go with technology?
Great question, Annie, and I'm happy to come down to 5,000 feet, even less than that.
The airline operator.
So let's go for landing.
Let's land, Simon.
Landing is going to be a consolidation, and I think this fragmentation has been absolutely unbelievable. And it's not sustainable, especially when you look at the verticalization. One thing I want to point out, and which I've pointed out many, many times, is that, the value proposition that vacation rental has is actually very simple. We're connecting guests with owners. That's all we do.
Right. Yeah.
It can't be simpler than that. It's like me going to the farmer and buying my eggs. That's as simple as it is. Yeah. Right. And why don't we make it so complex? And everybody tried to get a niche of the verticalization. So if we look at the verticalization between owners and guests, we're talking about potentially 25 verticals. In between that, channel managers, PMSs, revenue management systems, you name them all, house automation, additional services, photographers, whatever. And, it's clearly, we see two things, Annie, to your question. One is hotel companies will come into this space without a doubt. SiteMinder has just become a unicorn. So everybody would dream if they would not come into our space. Cloudbeds is not far behind. So, and then we have Muse, who is super well capitalized. So the hotel companies have finally realized, especially the younger hospitality software companies have realized there is a space that we need to take, because they have taken the growth from 2019, literally. The data shows it. Yesterday I was at the World Tourism Forum in Lucerne on a panel, and then the final question of the moderator was, when do we recover as a travel in travel? And he looked at me and I said, well, we've already recovered. So, 2021 has seen higher numbers than 2019. So where is your question? We have recovered. So I think in terms of technology, I think there is aggregation, there is consolidation happening. So people companies buying others. There is private equity capital coming into the space, and there is hotel software companies coming into the space. So we see three different dynamics that are coming into the space, and the ones who cannot make it, they will fall out at the bottom. So we have a lot of fragmentation, as our industry is fragmented anyway in terms of PMSs and smaller tech companies, but the larger ones will either potentially raise more capital and expand their value proposition, or they're being acquired by companies who are coming now in the hotel space. I mean, let's face it, SiteMinder, after their going public IPO in Australia, has now $600 million on the bank account. And you know, it would be mad to believe that they will not think about the vacation rental industry to start investing into the tech space, right?
Right. And it's interesting because it's like there's two completely polar ends of this that I see. The new software companies that are coming into the vacation rental market, that when we were at VRMA, we went around, we did a demo of just about all of them. And the newest ones that have the most funding, that are the shiniest, and you know, they've got 30 developers standing there. To us that actually use the software, and we have our own proprietary software, a lot of the things just didn't make sense. And maybe that's just us, but you know, having a legacy company that's been around for 35 years, the way that we use our software is how it's truly made to be used by operators. And I think that's one thing that I worry about for these new companies that are coming in. It might not be as much of an issue for, you know, if you're just a brand new short-term rental company that's just coming onto the scene to use these, because you're not sure of how, you know, the ways that true, you know, companies really use the software. But it's, you know, it's easy to get sidelined by how nice it looks and how, you know, up to date everything is. But at the end of the day, the functionality just is off in some cases. And that's one side of it. The other side of it is the true entrepreneurial side of our industry, that there's a lot of operators out there that are making their own solutions, that they are one-offs that work for themselves and possibly for others, but they've got that core, you know, backbone and foundation of what is truly needed to run the business. And, you know, somewhere in the middle there is where it needs to be from a software side. But it's amazing to me, because I don't think that is the case. That's not how hotel software was built, that you've got one side that's super high tech and modern, and the other side that is true, you know, it's the bread and butter of what needs to be done. That's just one of the unique things about our industry, I guess. But
now, it's a great point you're raising, Alex. And you know, my question back to you: when was CondoWorld founded? Give me
1985.
an answer.
1985. Same year I was born.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So there we go. Even makes me blush. You know, you know, my daughter was born a little bit later than that, but you know, let's leave it to that. That's, you know, that's already explains the answer, you know, in terms of where was CondoWorld at that time and what do they need. You know, it's interesting to say, to the point that you raise, is that if you look at the US market and you look at the European market, you know, 50% of property managers have proprietary PMSs.
Yeah, that's
built
so interesting.
tech, because the business is so much older. And, you know, not to your age and not to my age, but, you know, this is just the nature of the industry and how it is evolved. This is crazy. And this is something that I found out very early when I looked at the US market, that you have far less proprietary technology because the industry is literally younger, right?
Yeah,
And that's a fact, right? So, but first of all, I need to mention to the audience, ladies and gentlemen, vacation rental is older than hotels, because we shared our caves with our fellow colleagues when we were hunting mammoth. So
wait, you mean that it didn't just start with Airbnb?
No, Brian Jeske did not innovate that space. And I am very loud about this, and I will continue on that, but we don't have time for that. So going back totally to technology, Alex, this is an interesting point. And I think, you know, to that argument, I think I would say the following. I think it really much depends what your ultimate goal is with your own business. And I think that's really fundamental in terms of what you do on the tech side, right? I think there is great technology out there that you can literally take off the shelf, whoever PMS that is, that serves to your purpose. Sometimes I really wonder how a certain PM cannot accept the technology from a PMS because it doesn't fit its own requirements. I mean, that's a joke, right?
Yeah.
We do the same thing. We're connecting guests with owners. That's all we do. So
Right.
don't argue to me, my business is different. But I think ultimately it depends on the strategy. Where do you want to go with your business? How do you want to grow it? What is your potential exit strategy that you say, okay, I want to rather have a proprietary system that I can control, leverage, franchise. There's many aspects to it. Or I simply take a PMS that serves maybe not 100%, but 90% of my requirements. It serves it. I'm happy to use that, and I can run my business, and that's fine. I think that's what it boils down to. So it's really, what is your case? What is your story? What do you need that differentiates if you go for proprietary and off-the-shelf technology? And I would say now in today's world, in the most cases, using technology that is available to you is definitely making total ends meet. And proprietary technology is something like you get into the sphere like a Vacasa turnkey. Like, once again, referring to the San Antonio interviews that I was able to have at the VRMA, is that also something that Carl Shepard said, above 1,000 units, you need to start making a decision. Do you go proprietary, or do you go with an off-the-shelf software?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the type of inventory makes a big difference too. I mean, Annie and I are both from markets where the type of inventory, they are condo, resort, on-site properties for the most part. And that's different than a beach home market. And it's interesting. I know first time I met you, Simon, was at ResFest, and almost every speaker except for you called them homes. I mean, there was nobody ever said the word condo at that entire conference. I thought, gosh, we don't fit in here, but that's, that's part of where the industry, I think, there's challenges. I mean, we work with a lot of resorts here that they're condotels, and that's what's in Panama City too, where Annie is. And, they operate as vacation rentals. They're owned by owners, but the hotel technology doesn't really work for them, and vacation rental technology doesn't really work for them. And we've built some different connections there to get some of our partners in our local market onto the vacation rental platforms, because we've got that technology understanding in the middle there. But that's definitely a problem I see for the industry in that specific type of inventory. And there's a lot of it. I mean, there's a lot of it, especially in these beach destinations, that there's going to be some big changes in the next couple of years, but that's definitely one of the big ones for that side of the inventory.
Yeah, I agree. The question is, Alex, when are the changes happening? I think the changes are happening slowly, right? And they're happening all the time. So I think, I wouldn't want to predict massive changes immediately. I think we have seen how the environment on tech is starting to evolve. It's a matter of capital. It's a matter of market reach and many other things, and what is happening to the industry in itself in terms of its fragmentation. But I wouldn't put a timeline to it. It's just happening, and it's happening slowly or faster. And when it's happening, we will see.
Mm-hmm.
So on that, the advancements in the technology and kind of game changers, I think you announced about a week or so ago your involvement in a new blockchain travel site or travel channel. Like, maybe you can explain it, called DTravel.
DTravel, absolutely. Thank you, Annie, to pick that up. And I'm so enthusiastic about it. And this is not a Steve Milo bashing OTA session here in any shape or form, but what it is about understanding what is happening to the industry. And one thing that AJL and myself have been always very strong about is to talk about margin compression by the OTAs. Who's taking our margin and who delivers the value proposition? Who cleans the toilet, who cleans the oven, and who does what needs to be done in a property. That's not the OTAs. And I think we could agree on that. And it's not about OTA bashing, but it's about, we're taking a margin from actually operating. So this is the $100 billion question, Annie, and I can go for about 3 hours on this, but let me try to phrase this for a second. So one thing that we're bad at, and I made a laudatio at that at Vitor a few weeks ago in Spain, to say we're still doing a shitty job of promoting our value proposition to homeowners, because people don't know what property managers do, right? They just have no clue. Because we do so much for their properties, for their guests, for everything that is around it. And we need to get better at that. That's point number one. Point number two is that we need to make sure that our margin does not compress further, because otherwise we can't make money. And then which will result, we become the glorified cleaning companies of Airbnb. And nobody wants to do that, right? So who wants to be called a glorified cleaning company of Airbnb or Booking.com or Expedia or Vrbo? They're all doing a great job. They're giving us demand. 80% of property managers in the US using third-party demand, but they pay for it, and it's expensive because the owners get smarter too. The owners say, hey, why should I pay you 30% if I can list on Airbnb for 5? So, this is a challenge. And then we are bad at communicating our value proposition to tell them, hey, but we do this, 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 and this. We do customer care. We do the check-in, the checkout. We take care of all their inquiries. We do guest screening. We do insurances. We do everything. And you don't want to pay for that. Well, what is the future? That is blockchain. Blockchain will disintermediate anybody who is in the middle of taking something that they don't really add value to. So one thing that I'm so strong about, we need to be extremely passionate about the fact that we're not becoming the Kleenex of this industry. If somebody says I did an Airbnb, well, we become the Kleenex of this industry, or the Hoover or whatever. And that is something that we cannot allow to happen, because it's the property managers, it's the one who do the guest experience at the last mile that delivers the service. That's not the distribution channel. So we need to disintermediate our distribution. So we cannot let OTAs take it all, half of our margin or even more, while we deliver 90% of the experience and the value that is being generated in booking a property or condo, whatever. So I'm a huge fan of new technologies, and that's why I got engaged with DTravel, which is the first decentralized autonomous organization in vacation rental that builds a technology on blockchain where you can list your property and you connect directly to the guest without any fees whatsoever. You have a say in the business. You basically determine everything that goes on in that business. And because you're partial owner, I mean, that's the blockchain technology is the future. And in travel, interesting enough, you can see a lot of different travel cases. You can see airlines, you can see cruise ships, you can see rental cars and everything else. But the vacation rental, interesting enough, is actually the most obvious use case for blockchain technology, because you disintermediate the connection between guests and hosts. And that does not reduce that to property managers, of course, because you control that unit. So, I mean, this is a perfect type of disintermediating how you can connect to guests without having to pay the middleman who, at the end of the day, I mean, let's face it, literally creates not that much value, because what they do better, they create an engine, they spend money in Google and Mountain View, get a higher ranking, that's where they're listed, and that's where your booking is coming from. I mean, that is not ultimately a sustainable business model. And, as we love the OTAs and we do business with them, they need to reinvent as well how we can make this more effective. But blockchain technology is here to disrupt that distribution space heavily, because you can do that at zero commission. You add the supply, you bring it to the consumer, and there's no commission in between.
Right. And I think we're already past that point, or a lot of companies are, that they fall into that trap that guests just look at them as it is just an Airbnb, and whether they even booked it on Airbnb or not, it doesn't matter, but that they have become the Kleenex. I think there's still room to change that. And as more attention comes into the market, I think there is room for that to continue to turn back to the property managers and the brands that are servicing those guests. But it definitely takes a concerted effort to do that. And, in any industry, what's the saying? Don't build your house on someone else's land. I mean, that couldn't be more true here, that for these newer companies that depend on Airbnb and VRBO for their entire revenue source, or 80, 90%, that is such a dangerous position to be in. So I hope that companies start understanding that that's not something that can continue. And I think most of them do, but where do you see the future with DTravel? I mean, what are the next steps? And I think the value proposition is there 100%, and it makes a ton of sense, but what are the next steps to continue to grow that?
Absolutely, Alex. I think it's education. It's educational aspects. Get people familiar what blockchain is, what DOA is, what is a decentralized autonomous organization, what does that mean? What is a token? What is blockchain? What is cryptocurrency? Get people at ease at what this is and what it provides to you. I think education is the first piece that we need to put a lot of efforts in for people to understand. And, the point that you raised, I could not agree with you more, but I think the problem of our industry overall, on top of what I just said, is we need to start become proud in what we're doing. We need to raise the voice and make sure we communicate the value proposition to our owners in what we really do, because people have no clue what property management does. There's no education for it. There's no university for it. We did it by accident, and now we're passionate about it, but we need to get better at communicating our value proposition to make sure people understand what the value is. Once people understand what the value is that we create to owners and guests, then we have the ability to use different types of technologies to go that way. But we need to start first in grouping together as an organization, as a vertical in the industry, and make a voice. We have regulatory issues we need to face. We have a lot of different issues we need to face, but we're so disintermediated, we're so fragmented, because we're all trying to survive and do our best thing that we can. But we need to become an industry voice that we can raise that, create the vertical, and then we can provide blockchain solutions that allows people to own and rent properties at free commission, because you can go directly to the source. And so there's a lot of work we still need to do, besides professionalization and technology adoption and many other things. But we need to be proud of what we do in our industry, make that aware to the stakeholder, and communicate that accordingly to everybody out there in the world.
Oh, sorry. So one other thing that I think, obviously all of our guests, you're very present in the industry, and you present on a lot of panels and go to a lot of conferences. And I think there is a conference that was going on or just wrapped up in Switzerland that you were at, the World Tourism Forum. Maybe take us through that and what that means to the industry.
No, absolutely. I think my job at the World Tourism Forum was to basically tell the opinion leaders in world tourism to tell that vacation rental is the vertical that has recovered the fastest by all other travel verticals, and that we're here to stay, and we do anything to professionalize that vertical. So that was an incredible, we talk about cruise, we talk about hotels, we talk about airlines. That's what, this is all fluffy, nice to touch. We love cruise ships, we love hotels, but a vacation rental does not, still doesn't enjoy the attention that it should at a high level of travel conferences and whatever. And the World Tourism Forum has started to understand that vacation rental is here to stay and has reached 80% category awareness. And now we need to deliver because people want to enjoy the product. So, I mean, that was incredible to mingle with, I was on the panel with the CEO of TUI Cruises. They have 12 cruise ships, on the ocean. We all smile, cruises, wonderful. And then we come at vacation rental. And when I walked out and said goodbye to her after the panel, she says, let me know when you want to have vacation rental on a cruise ship. And, that was a great finishing line to see that all travel verticals will have to come closer together to create value and to the consumer at the end of the day. And I think everybody has realized post-COVID, everybody has understood what my dependencies are in terms of running my business. And I think we've become far more open and liberal to talk to each other, to create value to the travel world overall. And vacation rental sees this massive tailwind. And to be honest, with the expertise and everything that we have, we will struggle. So we need to partner with other industry verticals like hotels to actually help us to accelerate the success that we had.
That's tremendous. I think that we just have so much opportunity. And I think, again, where everybody that we talked to, and Simon, we've talked to you about this at length, the COVID gave us our voice. Both, I think, personally, Alex and I have talked about it gave us our personal voice, gave us our company's voice, but it's given the industry a voice that it really didn't have before. So I appreciate you bringing all of that to us, and of course, sharing all of your amazing knowledge and experience. And so we're getting kind of at the end here, and want to wrap up. And I told you in the beginning, we wanted to throw some questions at your way, some curveballs, but they're really softballs. I was going to ask you about what you're most passionate about, but I think there's no question about what you're most passionate about. Nobody could mistake that one. But I would ask you, what is something in your career, either professional or personally, what are you most proud of that you want to leave a lasting legacy for people to remember you for?
Well, that's probably the acquisition of Interchalet from Interhome, which doubled our size. I think that's an acquisition that I literally worked on for 8 years to make it happen. And I think, making us twice the size of Interhome and Interchalet was probably the most proudest thing that I ever did.
Well, that certainly was a big game changer in the industry. So I'm going to let Alex wrap it up for us, because I know she's got a couple of questions to ask you.
Let's see. So I guess kind of on that same point, but what's something that inspires you? I mean, when, in difficult times that we all get in our career, what makes you want to keep going? What makes you wake up even when the news is not good and we feel like, there's just that next thing that's always in the way? What keeps you motivated to continue to keep innovating?
Great question, Alex. The brown eyes of my 5-year-old looking into my eyes and says, "Daddy, get up." I mean, that's priceless, right? So having 5 children, get energy from all different ages, and how to see them growing up, and what troubles that they have and they don't have. I mean, I could not get a better level of energy from the children that I have, and I love my kids to bits, and they give me every day, they give me motivation because their troubles are so small, and we need to, they're so honest and they're so, truthful. It's a blessing. So that's on the family side. And obviously my wife and I, we're a great team. We founded this company together. AJL is named after our kids. So we have a big foundation in how we believe to drive value that we have not seen in our corporate worlds. My wife and I, we had 25, 30 years of corporate experience, and we learned a lot of good things, but we learned a lot of bad things. And our ambition is to apply everything that we've learned in the corporate life to AJL and make leadership, make staff satisfaction and everything better. But last but not least, my biggest energy point is Nelson Mandela. I've read all his books. Way to Freedom is probably the most powerful book that I've ever read in my life. Somebody who's been in prison for 27 years for his belief is just second to none. And I was in the fortunate situation to follow his footsteps. I've met him personally. I've been to the prison cell. I literally went after the book. Good friends of ours in Johannesburg lived very closely to his house. So for me, Nelson Mandela is somebody that lived the spirit that you can sacrifice a lot to actually achieve what you believe in. And that's, besides my family, one of my biggest motivation.
Oh, that's awesome. I love all those answers in that one question. And, I will mention Annie and I were in one of your sessions at VRMA, that the most, authentic and wonderful moment happened while you were on stage. Yeah. That your daughter called and you forgot to put your phone on silence. And instead of turning it away in front of, had probably 75 people in the audience, you picked up and you said, "Hi, honey, I'm in the middle of a meeting right now," and FaceTimed with her, and you showed her the audience, and you called her back afterwards. But that was just a really sweet moment, and just, shows how much you love your children. And I, got to know you a little bit more personally on that last trip, and it was great to hear about them. So we want to,
I think from that point, Alex, just to close that, sorry to interrupt you, I'm very sorry.
Right.
That summarizes it. It's authenticity.
Yes.
That's what I want to be. I'm a human being. I'm tired. I've got gray hair. I'm getting fat. Things are changing in my life, but I want to be authentic. I want to be what people see and what the people get. And, that call from my daughter, once again, was totally unplanned. It was totally coincidence. I mean, I told the audience, turn off your mobiles, and I get one, and I took it because I knew from my wife before I got on stage, I was really homesick. She was in a writing class, a writing camp, and it was her first camp away from home, and she was super homesick, and she didn't know where I was. So I took that, and it was not a PR gig. It was not staged. It was purely authentic. And the reaction was just mind-boggling, because that's what life is all about. And I think we need to make sure in our lives that we allow life happen, and we have space for that. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Authenticity is a big thing. And that's definitely what Annie and I have tried to do with this podcast, is, be our authentic selves and bring ourselves to the table every day as we have these interviews. And I know today was one of those days. So we appreciate having you and you opening up to us and telling us a few stories that maybe haven't been heard on some of the podcasts, as well as
definitely not.
Yeah. and share some of the big news too. I mean, about DTravel is so exciting, and we can't wait to watch and see how that continues for you and for that team. But Annie, anything else we need to
No, again, I mean, humbled as always, Simon. Just appreciate your time, because you are a busy man, but we are grateful and very blessed and fortunate to be in your orbit. And thank you for all of your guidance and support and friendship, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
So if anybody is interested in reaching out to you and your company, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you? Great
question. LinkedIn, Simon Lehmann, Lehmann at LinkedIn. You'll find me. Simon.Lehmann@ajlatelier.com is another one. Great to reach me. And I mean, we're out there, we're visible. I think AJL Atelier is the best way to contact us, also on our webpage. And I want to thank you both for your initiative, for trying to being different in our industry and having a good approach in where you want to get to in terms of your questions, and putting the human aspect at the forefront of what we are in this industry. I think that makes it very special. And I want to thank you, Alex and Annie, for taking the initiative to do so. Once again, I would love to be at the Women's Summit as well. And I hope you have a great conference there as well. I thank you dearly for having me on your podcast. And I love to be in this industry and continue the conversation.
I hope we'll see you at VRMA Chicago in the spring. Will you be there?
No comment. I don't know yet.
Okay.
We've just expanded our organization in the United States.
Okay.
We have now, we've expanded our footprint, and now I can maybe reduce my travel a little bit. And last but not least, I'm really sorry about my background, but I'm sitting in Switzerland. It's now very dark outside, so my lights are.
Oh no, we can still see you. We can see you good. Well, you'll have to let it. Maybe Annie and I, we need to go international. We'll come over there and go to one of your events, if not over here. But thank you again, and we'll include Simon's contact information in the show notes. If you want to reach Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com, and that links to all of our social media and contact forms. So thank you again, Simon. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thanks,
likewise.
Simon.
Thank you, ladies. Bye.